Good afternoon. What a week to recap between income, spending, inflation, jobs. I mean, you name it, last week or so here has really had it all. My name is Brandon Steele, financial advisor with Mainsail Financial Group here in Bellevue. And our goal every Thursday is to bring to you the market news, the data, which trends we're watching, hopefully weed out a bit of the noise along the way. So again, this week we have a lot to cover. From Thursday to Thursday has had a lot of very, very important data. So I'm going to start with last Friday, and then we'll kind of jump into this week here as well. But we will skip the question of the week here for this week, just because we have so much to cover. So going into late last week there on Friday, we had personal income and spending come out. Both were up, and both were up the same amount. So personal income up 0.4%. Spending up 0.4% as well. So definitely, interesting to see those kind of come up alongside each other. This was interesting to see. I think, we've been noticing a little bit of wage inflation, obviously, for some time. Certainly seeing it from this, from this data point here last Friday, and spending just continues to grow. Now, keep in mind that, again, inflation factors into this spending number as well, which I'll touch on here in a minute. Especially lately, where we've seen energy prices kind of come up quite a bit. So keep that in mind. This spending number does, in some way, shape, or form, kind of factor in some inflation aspects as well. Also on Friday, we had PCE data, which again is a measure of inflation. This is one of the biggest data points that the Fed watches. Actually, there is CPI, PPI, and PCE are some of the most common ones that we watch, or the Fed watches, excuse me, for inflation data. And PCE data showed on Friday that the headline number, both monthly and year over year, were up from last month. So again, really showing that inflation is continuing and actually is growing even faster in this last month than it had the month prior. However, remember, headline inflation does include energy and food. And obviously, we've seen oil prices increase quite a bit over the last month or so. So it definitely has a big impact on that. If you strip that out, we get what's called core PCE. And the core PCE rate did come down slightly, an increase this month of 0.1%, which puts the year over year inflation rate on core PCE data at 3.9%. Again, that's year over year, 3.9%. So again, although it is coming down slightly here, it's still a long ways away from the Fed's supposed 2% target. So we will see, and that will have an impact for sure on what's to come. Fast forward to this week, we have seen a lot come out. On Tuesday, we had JOLTS data and job openings come out. And job openings came out at about 9.6 million. This is a big tick up from where we were last month. And we saw quite a significant drop last month there too. So it seemed like maybe job openings were narrowing, but here we are 1 month later, and they've certainly widened again. So the market did not like these two data points. On Tuesday, we saw pretty big drops. And really, we've seen quite a bit of downside here over the past 10 days or so. Since the Fed press conference a little ways back there, we've seen quite a pullback in general. And what I will share is that right now on the S&P, for instance, we are very close to some levels that are really important to watch. I know this may sound a little bit silly, but the reality is the level that we're at right now is really, really critical to watch, or at least that we're close to. Because what we could potentially see from a technical perspective, it's very likely, or it's very possible that the S&P could kind of bounce off of these levels and start to pick back up again. But the opposite is also very important to watch as well. If the S&P does break through these levels, it is likely that there could be a little more pullback to come here as well. So again, it's really important kind of time here in the S&P and in the markets, because depending on where we kind of go from here, up or down, may dictate what we see for a little period of time anyways, moving forward. But it's definitely been a bit of a pullback since the Fed meeting there last week, as people begin to take the Fed maybe a little more seriously in what they've been saying this whole time, but what they actually might do here before year end. And interest rates have gone up quite a bit as well through all this. On Wednesday, so just yesterday, we had ADP employment report come out, shows that we added 177,000 jobs. So let's call it, right in between actually the last couple of months there. But as you know, take the ADP employment report with a bit of a grain of salt. Tomorrow we will be talking a lot about, tomorrow we come out with the unemployment and non-farm payrolls numbers. So next Thursday, we'll be spending a lot of time on that. And that's really the most important jobs number to watch here versus the ADP employment report. And then we also had today, we had initial jobless claims come out. Nothing to really write home about. The number was 207,000, so down slightly from last month, up slightly from the month prior. But nothing to really write home about. And I'm sorry, it's down slightly from expectations, up slightly from last month there. Coming up, again, we're going to skip our question of the week this week just because with so much to cover, but I really hope that was helpful. And again, this level in the S&P is really important to watch closely from here. But coming up next week, markets are closed on Monday. So just a quick heads up, markets will be closed for the holiday, no trading on Monday. But we do have a lot of jobs data to cover, obviously, with the unemployment and the non-farm payrolls tomorrow. And then we have new PPI and CPI data coming out next Wednesday, right alongside with the minutes from the Fed meeting there recently. So be sure to tune in next Thursday at 3. We're going to break apart all this continued jobs, inflation, and Fed speak as we kind of gear up for that next Fed meeting here in a little bit. Thanks so much for joining us here this week. Definitely tune in next Thursday at 3. Have a great upcoming weekend. I believe it's supposed to be almost 80 degrees in the Pacific Northwest. So enjoy the sunshine here in October, and we'll see you next Thursday at 3.